Bienvenidos a Taboo Talk Latina Edition. Yo soy Cynthia,
And I'm Jeanette.
and we're here to create a safe space where Latinas can be real, raw, and share their authentic stories.
Este es un lugar donde celebramos nuestras raíces, pero also confrontamos esos tabús que nos afectan. En este show vamos a romper el silencio sobre las expectativas culturales y tradicionales que nos han marcado, y lo hacemos con conversaciones honestas y profundas. Nuestra misión es inspirar, empoderar y conectar a todas las mujeres latinas y lo que hacen nuestras experiencias únicas.
So, whether you're tuning in to hear a powerful story or join the conversation, this is your space to embrace who you really are. Ahora, déjame presentarle a nuestra increíble invitada de hoy.
Let's welcome our guest, Endrina Hernandez. Endrina is a proud Latina breaking barriers in the defense industry as a project manager, where she leads big projects with heart and determination. With a background in culture, anthropology, and certifications in engineering, she brings a unique perspective to her work. Endrina is also passionate about uplifting diverse communities, mentoring others, and helping the next generation of leaders shine. As an immigrant, she is passionate about mentoring and leading Latino employee resource groups to empower underrepresented communities in tech. A successful business owner and a lifelong learner making an impact in both her career and community. Bienvenida. We're so happy to have you here.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Yes. Y ahora que conocemos ya un poquito más de nuestra invitada, let's jump right into los temas de hoy. First, we would love to discuss breaking barriers Latinas in male-dominated industry. We'll highlight the experiences and challenges of Latinas in fields like tech, finance, or construction and explore strategies for thriving in these spaces.
Y luego vamos a hablar de family first, when setting boundaries feels like betrayal. Tenemos la culpa que muchas veces sentimos al enfocarnos en nuestro bienestar y establecer límites en nuestras familias latinas. ¿Y cómo podemos navegar esto con compasión? Prepárense para una conversación real, profunda y llena de power. Cynthia, let's dive in.
Breaking barriers, Latinas in male dominated industry. We all know that working in spaces like tech, finance, or construction as Latina comes with a lot of unique challenges. Let's talk about these experiences and how they've shaped our careers.
So to kick things off, Endrina, ¿cuáles fueron algunos de los mayores retos que enfrentaron al entrar a la industria dominada por hombres? ¿Y cómo usaste esas estrategias para ayudarte a superarlo? Because I know being in the tech world, it's something that we think it's only dominated by male.
Yeah, and so how I went into where I work now, I had a mentor. What really helped was the fact that él era amigo de mi familia, y entonces me pudo meter como, vamos a meterla por aquí, tú entras, haces lo que tú quieres y después yo te dejo y tú haces lo que tú quieres. Pero the problem there is they see me, I'm not white. I have a thick accent in English still. They're like, oh, she doesn't have an engineering background, or she didn't do this, she didn't do that. And the problem with that is they immediately address you and they put you in a box where you're not going to be more than what we need you to be. So I'm always somebody I'm very sassy. I always talk when I need to talk, and you're just gonna hear me. And if you don't like it, you don't like it, but that's just what it is. And I think that has helped me like push through a lot of the times because I feel like there's been moments in my career. I started when I was 23, and I've been at the same company until now. I've had to like push through a lot of situations where I'm being shamed in being who I am. I'm being mansplained and talked to as if I don't know what I'm talking about, but I have all this resume full, all of these things, and I have people who have helped me grow in my career. But there's this constant idea of because you look how you look or you are who you are, you don't really know what it is that we need you to do. And so there's this constant box that they put you in, and you're always striving to jump out of that box to like prove yourself. And that's actually very exhausting. I feel like once you grow into who you are, or you like stay with specific things, like how I said, like I've stayed with my sassiness a lot of the times, and I just have to like tell you about yourself sometimes. And so that has helped me a lot. And so a lot of people at work be like, don't talk to Endrina like that because you know she's gonna do this, or you need to go and speak to her this type of way and manner and bring her all the facts that you need because she's not gonna help you if you don't have everything in order. That little things like that have helped me. I've heard the same thing from my coworkers. So I just think little things like that, like staying in who you are and like trying to constantly just push through and just opening your own road for you, that a lot has helped.
And I feel like that makes a difference too, because again, like when you hear the word tech, you automatically think it's a man, right? Like that's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
male dominated
Yeah.
industry. So when I heard about you and I saw your bio, I was like, wow, me and Cynthia were like, she's a one powerful
Yeah.
lady, because you don't get to read often a woman that's in tech but also thriving, and that it's learning and paving the way for others to also know that no, you can run the show as well. And just like you said, like they put you in this box that you can't break free, and you think, well, if I'm not good enough or I don't fall under this category, then I will quit. Like maybe this is not meant for me. But you have proven that no, yes, and you are going to show others that they can too.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like, how do I say this? Because so where I work, of course, it's majority white male, but it's not only the white males. Like I have coworkers that are Latinos and Black Americans, and they'll sit there and say certain things, and I'm looking at them like, are you okay? Like, you don't say things like that just because you think that women shouldn't be in tech. Like, at the end of the day, everybody says that, oh, women are so emotional and they can't run. But do you see how things they always go left because men tend to be emotional? And I've seen that in my own company and where I work. So it's just like, I think people, at least men more so than anybody, should not make those type of comments and should just let women develop themselves in the career area that there are, especially because a lot of these women know what they're doing. Their resume is amazing. You have all of these credentials. Women tend to just go and like, oh, I'm going to get another degree. Oh, I'm going to do another credential. Oh, I'm going to go get this, that, and the third. And so you can't just imagine or just think that they're not qualified because of what they look like.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it. And I love how you're just true to yourself. You're like, this is me. I'm spicy. I'm sassy. You're Latina, right?
It took a little bit of time to bring that out, but I think now that I'm like in my 30s, I'm just like, it is what it is. And my mom, like yesterday, we were having a conversation, and she goes, "Estos son los monstruos que yo crié," or something like that. And I'm like, no, you didn't create a monster. You created somebody who like stands on her toes, and it's
Yeah.
just like we're not doing that.
I love that. That's so true.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it. Now, for those watching who might feel intimidated by these industries, ¿qué consejos tienen para mujeres que quieren romper barreras y entrar a estos espacios?
So yo por lo menos busca un mentor, busca personas que se parezcan a ti. Por lo menos haz un grupo en el trabajo donde tú estés que like they're your partners, they're your friends, it's your family, your work family. Like you need to find spaces where they accept you for who you are and go where you're loved. Don't go where you feel that you have to force yourself and you have to make a space because oh, they're not letting me in, so I need to make this. But you can also go another way and just make your own space. You can make your own group, go where you're loved. Always go where you're loved and stay in who you are. That's really the main thing. You don't want to go to a workplace and not be able to be yourself because that's not a safe space. You should be able to be yourself 100%. Granted, there's little things that you have to do here and there, but it's you should always be your 100% yourself anywhere you work.
And I love that, and the fact that you share about seeking help and asking for a mentor. We as women, we feel like even though we are all about the community and helping, empowering each other, we are always hesitant to ask for help.
Yes,
Yes.
And
yes,
that is so important, right? Because especially in
yes,
the tech, like if I want to get in tech and I don't know much about it, I would like another woman to guide me instead of a man, right? Because
yes.
different perspective, different moods, we all work different. So I love that you mentioned that, aside from, of course, being yourself, that's important, because those are the two things that we always try to either try to fit in. So we are fake it until you make it, or we don't ask for help and then we wonder why we're struggling.
Yes. Yeah. So that's been part of my problem. When I was younger, I would be like, oh, I can do it. But then I was left with, what am I doing? How come I'm not progressing in my career? What is going on? And so finding people that accept you for you and are willing to help you, that's very important. Like, I've run a group in at work, and they're called Mujeres. And it's part of our Latino engineering group. It's a resource group, so anybody can join. Doesn't have to only be Latinos, but it's mainly for Latinos. And so the women that come into that group have, we always talk about these problems that we have at work, but it's like a little community where they come and dump whatever they're feeling, how they're feeling, they talk about it, they ask for help, and then they go about their day and see what they can do. And then they come back and like, oh yeah, this worked. Oh no, this didn't work. What else can we do? But it's a community that you've created for yourself that you know you can come and always get help. And not everyone's willing to help you, but you can always just ask. There's nothing wrong with asking. The only thing they can say is no. And then we find another option. There's always another option.
I
That's
love
always
Wonderful.
been my thing. There's always another option. Okay, they tell you no. Okay, well, what is no? Well, question the no, but also let's move on and find you another option, which is fine.
Which is fine. You're right.
Yeah.
And that you have that space, that's beautiful too, because it's really hard, especially in workplaces or corporate America, to find where you feel okay to speak up or, hey,
Yeah.
I want to learn who can help me. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
beautiful that you
definitely.
have that.
Definitely. And I'm glad that I have the personality that I had when I was younger, just because it allowed me to just burst in somebody's office and be like, "Hey, I'm here. I need help." But I definitely did learn to like, okay, you can't always do that, so you have to find other methods to do that.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
because we're
yeah.
so hard on ourselves. We never want to seek help, but we know we need help. And then
Yeah.
we ask ourselves why we're not advancing or why we're not where we're supposed to be. And it's because we have to break that limiting belief of like, we can ask for help and there always going to be somebody that's willing to help you. And like you said, si alguien dice que no, vamos a seguir buscando quien dice que sí, because there will be someone out there. Look at
Yeah.
us gathering, we met online and we're
Look.
here
I
creating
know.
this movement and having a real raw conversation, and people set themselves short. So that's a
Yeah.
beautiful reminder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
Don't.
is it so
Yeah.
hard for us to ask for help, right? It's
So
like,
hard.
yeah, I always wonder because I hear that a lot. Like, I have a hard time asking for help or delegating, right? That's another big thing.
Yeah. So I
Delegating the
like,
work.
for me, I've learned that it's because I saw my mom not ever asking for help.
Yes.
So I grew up in a household where my mom did everything.
Yep.
But now that I'm older, I'm like, I don't want to do everything. Actually, I want to, let me ask for help, let me delegate. So that's where I realized it was coming off for me. And I love my mom. She's very headstrong, very like, I'm doing this and this is what I'm going to do. And she likes to take a lot on her plate. But I've also learned that's not healthy. You're mentally struggling, physically start to deteriorate, and you're just like overwhelmed all the time. So it's like, how about you help yourself by asking for help? Let's just see it that way.
Yeah, it's like they say you can't fill from an empty cup, right?
Exactly.
And then we wonder, and we had this conversation before, Cynthia, why we are failing in areas of our lives. And it's because, we can be good at everything, especially when we're not even good at with ourselves.
Yeah.
So once we start pouring into that cup, then we can start becoming a better girlfriend, better wife, better mom, better student, better employee, because we start recognizing those areas. And those, I feel like Latina, like you said, going back to our roots, it's so hard because we don't ask for
Yeah.
help. Like, mind you, even having a housekeeper, like, help me do laundry or clean. My mom is like, como tienes billete. It's not even that expensive. Like, but it's because she doesn't really fully understand. She's never had that. And she also had my grandma then, which it was a beautiful blessing to have. But recognizing that, yeah, mom, I don't want to be cleaning if I don't have to, or doing certain things when I can be pouring into either my business, my boys,
Yes.
be more present in life and more appreciated.
No.
And besides, I'm helping someone, right? So it's not like a bad thing, but she sees it like, "Oh, ¿cómo estamos?"
That's so
It's that
funny.
mindset, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Or you could be
No.
like me, get the cleaners, and then I'm like being picky about the way they're cleaning. So I'm like, ay, olvídalo. Yo lo voy a hacer yo because they didn't clean it correctly.
Dude, that's me. I promise you. I
yeah,
promise you.
true.
I'm the same way. I'm sitting there like,
Yeah.
okay, hold on. I don't. You clean it like that? Like that's what you're gonna do?
Yes.
So
Is
it's
that
like
what I'm
it's just
paying you for?
yeah, that's what I'm paying you for. Like I'm not asking. So like it's really hard to let go of that control, but you really have to ask for help. I've learned like and it's like you said, Jeanette, my mom when we were younger, when we lived in Venezuela, she had maids. But when we moved to the States, she was just like, oh, yeah, no, you're going to have to do all this and we're going to do all that and this, that, and the third. But she took on a lot. And so when me growing up seeing that, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to live how we lived back then.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, of
let's
course.
make everything as easy as possible. So I probably, when I do have kids, in the close future or not, but I do plan to be just like you. I'm paying for a maid. I'm paying for somebody to come and help me clean during the week. You can't do everything. I'm not an octopus. I don't have 8 arms to move things around. So it's just like, you need help. We need help. And it's best to ask for help before draining yourself.
Yeah,
I
and
couldn't
it's
agree
funny
more.
that you say that because that generation, like our parents, because it's the same back home. Like my grandmother had someone help her. And now that I think about it, like that was her community, right? It
Mhm.
wasn't like, oh, this is my cleaning lady or this is my driver. These people were her community. This is the community that she built. So it's funny
Yes.
then you come here in America and it's like completely different, right? You're doing it on your own, it's all about, work, work, work. So yeah, it's funny just seeing the two different dynamics.
It is. And
No.
lastly, before we move on to our next topic, it's something that as women, like I remember somebody tell me, oh, but we can do it all. We are women, we're Latinas. I'm like, yes, but we don't have to. And I'm never going to forget that conversation because those are two very important, subjects that we have to keep in mind. Is like, yes, we can. And I know we will, like if we have to, but do we really have to? No.
Yeah.
So we should set those boundaries. And whether it's in the tech world or in your corporate America job or at home, like keeping those foundations and really what can help you to better yourself. That's important.
No, definitely. Yeah. I think it's just you need help, point blank, period. You can't do everything on your own. You're going to drain yourself. And then you're going to sit there and question why everything's going not right to you. And then you have all of these things that you're just not willing to let go control of. So the asking for help, whether at home, at work, is very important, like you said, Jeanette.
Very important.
Yes. All right, chicas. Ahora, moving on to the second topic. Family first, when setting boundary feels like betrayal. In tight knit Hispanic families, prioritizing self care and setting boundaries can feel like you're letting others down. Let's explore this dynamic.
Andrina, I know we just spoke about
Girl.
this briefly. ¿Cuándo sentiste la culpa de prioridad a ti misma y establecer límites con tu familia? ¿Y cómo lo lograste manejar sin culpa? Because I know no matter what, we always have that guilt behind us that tells us, oh, we shouldn't have said that. We shouldn't have done that. Like I'm being selfish. How do you do it?
You know, it's funny. I literally had a situation with my parents not too long ago about this. And honestly, it's I can't even say it gets easier. I feel like because we're how we're raised in the family of like we're a nucleus and American culture is very you're one person and you get to go do whatever you want. It's just very hard. I always tell my parents when I walk into this house, I'm full Venezuelan, but when I leave the house,
Yeah.
my parents are going to be there my parents. They're not going to change. I've tried. I think we all get to a point where like you need to change, like you
They
need to
won't.
change.
Yeah.
And they're not going to change. They're very stuck in their mannerism. They're stuck in who they are. And we love them for who they are at the end of the day. But it's just finding that balance. So there's days, for like example, my mom recently had a procedure. I wasn't here on the procedure. And usually I'll drop everything and come. Llamo para la oficina y digo, me voy a llevar la computadora para la casa, voy a trabajar desde la casa. Tengo que hacer esto de la casa. And I just drop everything. And I just come and be with my mom and do everything for her and all that. But then I had to take a step back and be like, you can't do that. You can't just constantly drop everything for everyone. What about your career? You have to have these meetings in the office. You can't always be on the phone doing two things at the same time because you're not paying attention to either one of them. So it's like where are you actually getting quality information when you're doing two things at the same time? So like recently I was just like, okay, go to the procedure, call the doctor and put the doctor on the phone with me so that I know what's going on and this, that, and the third, but I'll see you in 2 days. And I'll see you in 2 days.
And how did that go? What was her
It was
response?
at first she would usually have like a push, like, well, why? Well, why can't you work here? And did it and like these things. And I'm just
Right.
like,
That guilt, right? That makes you feel
yeah, it's the
guilty.
guilt because it's just like, well, I know I can, but like, how do I tell her that like I don't necessarily want to do that? And so I just had to be like, okay, pero eso no es lo que yo quiero hacer.
And it's so hard.
And there's this push and there's this roll of eyes and this attitude and this fussing, but it's just like I come first. At the end of the day, like you have to put yourself first someday, somehow. And it starts with little things like that. You can't always just give in to people because if I give in to my parents all the time, you're gonna give in to your husband all the time. You're gonna give in to your partner all the time. You're gonna give in to your kids all the time, the coworkers. So it's like you're constantly over giving away your power of self constantly because you want to make someone happy.
Yes. And then
And it's just
Wow, you nailed it.
yeah.
and then you're like constantly frustrating because you're just like what the heck, like when is it going to be enough for me, or like when is it time for me to just be me? Or like now that I'm older, I know it was a struggle when I was younger, when I first moved back from school and she saw that I was just out and about and that I didn't ask for permission and that I had my big girl job in my car and I was just go out and about. It was just like, esto no es hotel.
Yeah.
¿Qué andas haciendo? Te la pasas en la calle, esto, lo otro. And I'm like, ma, I work. I pay for my own things. Like there's things that I do so you don't have to worry about me, but it's still not enough. And so it's very hard, I think, for them to understand like you become a friend to your child because in their mind they're like we're not your little friend. And that's always their mentality, like I'm your parent, like your parents are above here in our culture, and so it's very hard to get out of that mindset with them, but I feel like you just have to find the balance that works for you. So like nowadays I call and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna come this day. My mom's fine, papa, porque él quiere que uno esté aquí metido en la casa, and I'm like,
Why
Daddy, it
you
doesn't
leaving
work
me?
like I'm like, Daddy, it doesn't work like that. Like I have work, like I can come this day. And so then the other thing is, I don't know if your parents do this, but mine started to like memorize my schedule. And so they knew I had every Friday off. And so they're like, well, why can't you be here every Friday? What do you mean? I can't be here every Friday. Like I can come every other Friday. I can come once a month. Is that enough? Well, I just feel like you have it off every Friday. I feel like you should make more time.
It's not
Dad,
enough.
it's not enough. And so it's like you have to really set those hard boundaries. And I promise you, I've had multiple fights with my parents about this. And it's just like I'm also the oldest out of this household. So it's like as the oldest, you're looked at basically your second mom, the second wife, your mom to your younger siblings. Every like anything that my mom knows to do, I know how to do it. And I might just sometimes remove my mom, so I'd be like, move, I'll do it myself. Like I don't even need, like I'm the project manager of my family at this point. So it's very hard to like set those boundaries. You always feel guilty. There's days where I've set a boundary and I'll cry. Because I'm like, I feel so horrible that I had to say no to my mom and my dad, but I have to do that. If not, it's just gonna get worse. And I've seen the dynamic between their families, and I've constantly been one who like speaks up for them in those cases where their family crosses boundaries. So it's like, if I can speak up for them, I need to speak up for myself. You can't just put yourself in the back burner constantly because you're going to do it with everyone else. And then you're just going to be so tired and you're not going to want to even move forward with your life because you're just going to feel like everyone can just take from me and that's what I'm here for. And you don't want to do that to yourself.
No.
Yes.
And that serves us as a reminder, right, Cynthia? Because we go through it too. And
Yeah.
her and I were discussing the other day because I'm dealing with something with my mom and I felt this weight on my shoulder. Like she still has my brother, she still has my sister, and it's still on me. And it's still currently on me, you know? So I had to take a step back, meditate, cry, let it out. Y decir, you know what? It does not make me a bad daughter. It does not make me less than what I already provide. And whoever's watching this, es para acordarle que you are enough and you're doing just fine. And no matter what you do, it's never going to be enough to them. And not because they don't love us, not because they don't care, but it's just who they are. You know, we can't
Yeah.
change them.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
generation too. And then when you speak up to them, it's like, oh, malagradecida. She's
You're
speaking
being
here, she's answering
disrespectful.
back.
gracias que tienes mamá y papá. It's just like these crazy shenanigans. And I'm just like, okay, we don't have to take it that far. Like, don't have to take it that far. And something that I have realized, like, at least with my mom's also an oldest daughter. And my grandmother is now here from Venezuela, and she's an oldest daughter. So she's used to just telling people what to do. My mom is used to telling people what to do as well. But I've seen their dynamic and how my mom has learned to put boundaries with my grandmother. And I'm just like, thank you. Like, at least you're doing it for yourself. So that makes it easier for me to even do it with you or anybody else because I'm seeing my mom do it. So, in a way, she is breaking that little curse that we all have going on where it's like we have to say yes to our mom all the time or we have to do this because of the family. But it's part of learning. And the one thing you can't always forget is you can't put yourself in the back burner. And that's for anyone across anybody who you're dealing with. You can't constantly just, oh, yeah, here's everything, but I don't get anything back.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and a lot of us tend to do that. I had my period in my life where I went through that, and then I woke up and I was like, oh yeah, no, this is enough. We're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you dig deep, you realize that
Yes.
when a lot of the times that you're crying, you're depressed, you have anxiety, aside from our personal problems, it's also because we continue to show up for everyone else and we stop showing up for ourselves. And because nuestra cultura, yeah, like we all said, it's that feeling of like we're not being enough, we're betraying our
Hmm.
family, or they start calling us names, or oh wow, que malagradecida eres, like Cynthia said, and we're like again, it's not enough. So it is
Yeah.
true, and it actually brings us, Cynthia, to our next topic about egoísta,
Yes,
which is crazy because somehow we're falling into the next subject.
I know, yeah. So, muchas veces setting boundaries es visto como algo egoísta, pero sabemos que es importante. ¿Qué pasos pueden tomar las mujeres para encontrar un balance entre cuidar de su misma y honrar sus relaciones familiares? Like you said,
So
Adriana, just taking care of that relationship that you have with your parents, but as well, setting those boundaries for them
yeah,
not to
like
get
I
offended.
yeah, definitely. And so and my the other thing is like when they do get offended, I ask like, okay, why are you offended? Like why are you what why are these feelings coming up? Because I don't feel I've done anything for you to have those feelings. So where are these feelings coming up? And I think when you question them, at first they might get defensive because it's like, why are you questioning me? I'm your parent.
Yeah, I was just
But
gonna say that.
Yeah.
it's like I'm an adult now. I'm not a 8-year-old little girl that wasn't able to ask questions, but now that I am older and I can understand where you're coming from, it's okay for me to ask these questions so I understand where you're coming from and we can have an what's it called, a safe dialogue and not go back and forth and just put each other down because I know that just like my mom, if she were to come at me, I'm going to go back at her. And so you don't, and you don't want that. You don't want that. And that's a lot of the things that happen in like our families. And so like till this day, I feel like my parents, at least and especially my dad doesn't know how to set those hard boundaries. And my mom has kind of like been guiding him in that. But his family does the same thing. And there's times where I'm like, cut it off. Don't do this. I'm like, you have to do all these things for yourself and you're doing so much more for them. But look what's going on here. You have to get surgery. You have to go here. You have to go do this work. You have to do that. And so it's like they sometimes don't realize what they're doing as well. And so in their mind, yo no estoy siendo egoísta porque estoy haciendo todo esto por los demás. But they don't know that they're not being selfish with themselves. So it's like at some point you have to learn to be a little bit selfish with yourself and give yourself the self-love that you need adequately because if not, you're not going to function.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part of Latina. It's
Yeah.
confronting that and standing firm, because it's one thing saying, okay, I'm going to stand up for my beliefs and do it, and then lo primero que te digan, you're like, okay, I'm sorry, okay, fine, I'll go,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, no. And like you said, which is like, okay, yes, I can't go. I'll be there in 2 days, because you know that you have priorities. And at
Yeah.
the end, I feel like, they lived their lives, they had their decisions, they are where they are right now based on everything they've done and where they saw themselves, and now we got to do what's better for us. And the same
Yes.
thing, like, I know you don't have kids, but in the future, I'm sure Like us, we have, like with my boys, I'm very firm too, in a way. Like I want to be different than how they raised me. Not
Yeah,
because they raised me bad, not because I love my family and I feel like everything was a lesson learned to who I am today. But it's important to know that the difference, not that I have to do this because that's what my family believes in, is what do you believe in? Now you have your own family to raise, you know?
exactly.
And
Yeah.
those are things that it's hard for us, but I feel like we
Yeah.
have to break free from that.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
And
I
good for
honestly,
you for
with kids,
standing up, and yeah,
Yeah.
because that's rare to come across, right? So good for you that, you set these boundaries and, whether it's at work or at home with your family. So that's a good trait to have.
thank you. I
Yeah.
promise you it took a few times to actually get it correct, but once it got rolling, I'm like, we're not doing this. We're done. I said, Andrina's not doing this. And I'm sorry, mamá y papá, pero tengo que hacer estas cosas así. Esto es lo que lo que me toca. Like, a ti te tocó hacer estas cosas así, pero esto es lo que a mí me toca ahora. And so, and it's not even like I've never looked at their life and asked and said things like, I would love to have what they have. But you say that when you're little, not actually knowing what actually goes on. And when you get older, you're like, actually, no, we have to set boundaries. There has to be a different way to manage things. And for them, it's always going to come off you're being selfish
Yeah.
because they're so used to just having you 100%, and they're used to getting 100% from you. And so if you give them less than 100%, they lose everything. There's just like, oh my God, we're losing control. She's not coming here. She doesn't love us. All these emotions come up, but it's not that. It's just how they process their own thoughts. And that's on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
is
that
so true.
transition between childhood to adulthood, I think is really difficult for them because, like you said, to them, they feel like they're just losing control from you, right? Because your whole life, you're a kid, they tell you what to eat, when to eat, they take you to school, running errands. But then when you're an adult, you're doing your own thing. So I think that transition, I think they have a really hard time with that transition.
They do. Yeah. And same thing with us too, until like Endrina said, until it hits us and we're like, okay, that's it, enough,
Yeah.
right? But very few people actually move past it. Some just say, well, esto fue lo que me tocó, this is my family and I have to embrace it. There's
Yeah.
differences, and
Yeah.
that's what we have to break free from, is you can be your own person, your own beliefs, and stand up for yourself. And again, going back to your career, in your household, with your family, because I know it's the hardest thing we do, but tenemos que confrontarlo, because that's how we're going to start breaking those curses and those
Yeah.
generationals and all those things that we say to ourselves that we can do. It starts from that, us believing we can and breaking
And
free.
like, and it's not like I love being at home. I love coming home and like being treated like I'm a guest.
Yeah.
Pero cuando uno llega aquí es como que tú no eres visita. Like, tú vives aquí, but I'm like, no, I am a guest. Yo siempre le repito a mi mamá, yo soy visita, yo solamente vine por 3 días. Aquí te traigo, because I have a dog, so I'm like, I brought you your grandson. Here you go. Have fun. I'm leaving such and such day. What do you need me to do to help you while I'm here? Do you want to go out? Like, I try to always have like a plan when I come home. I think that's really what works for me. Home with a plan. So you're busy every other day. And like in those specific pockets where like you want to spend time with your parents, my mom drops everything for me and my sister. And so I'm like, okay, well, are you free this weekend? ¿Qué quieres hacer? Anything that I can just get her in the car and just go with her.
Yeah.
She loves it. So it's like that's always my plan. To at least come home and have like a specific day where I spend with her more than 6 hours doing anything that we both enjoy. And that kind of like lessens the stress of like, oh, I have to do things because my parents. And like you like can relax your shoulders, you're not crying, you're not feeling anxious. So I think that really has worked for me, to come home with the plan, but also know when you have to exit.
Yes.
Know when you have to exit. Know when you have to exit because
Yeah, I can imagine. And I'm glad you said that. Yeah, that is so true. But learn when you have to exit. I was like,
know when you
nailed
have to
it.
exit.
Yes.
Know when you have to exit because you're like, okay, well, ya chao, te veo más tarde, bendición, and I'm out because there's not there you're not going to be able to change their mind.
No, you can. And that's the struggle. Like they always want to keep you with them or keep you safe, in their eyes. But we grow and we got to live our own life. It's just, I know it's hard on them, but we can't let that not help us move forward. Because then when they're gone, entonces estamos lamentando, man, I should have done this, I should have done that.
Yeah.
Everything in a relationship, when somebody
Yeah.
passes away, with when you lose a career, right? We're always like, we should have done this, we should have done that. And it's like, just be present in the moment, which I love you said that, because technology can consume us too. So just, hey, I'm gonna
Yeah.
be present with you. We're gonna go out, we're gonna do stuff. And then learn when to exit and go back to the mode of work mode or girlfriend wife mode, or to your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that would be my telling people what to do. Please learn how to exit. Well, first of all, the one that has always said something, she always comments on my weight. She's always commented on ¿cómo se llama? Porque soy morena. And she always makes like these little like passive aggressive comments cuando comparándome con mi prima.
Yeah, that it's a jokes, but it's not
Yeah.
jokes.
It's a joke. Like it's like you're poking at me, and if I snap, I'm gonna be the disrespectful one
Right.
in her eyes.
Yeah.
And so what I have, how I maneuver that, I honestly don't talk to her. So I'm like, we're just here. We're just in the same space, but like I don't have to, I'm not being disrespectful or anything of that. But I have learned to just remove myself and not antagonize it, because if you go back and forth with her, nothing's gonna come out of that. So it's like you need to just remove yourself. And I don't understand why in our families, the older women always have something to say.
Always.
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 Yes. And now that you
Always.
mentioned the comparing of the cousin, I have an aunt that does that too. And I'm like, why do they do that? They start comparing.
And like, mind you, I'm my in the sequence of order, I'm like one of the youngest. So it's just like, ¿cómo me vas a comparar con una que tiene 40 y pico y yo tengo 25 cuando hacías tanta comparación? And I'm like, what is the like? What do you want to get at? What do you
Yeah.
what do you want to get at? I'm like, my cousin is way older than me. I'm this, and we're grown. We've been raised completely different. So I don't. There's a this constant of aunts wanting to compare. And I really don't understand, because it's not like I see that on my mom's side of the family. I see it more on my dad's side of the family. Something's always wrong with the dad's side of the family. I don't know why that's a recurring thing.
And it's crazy because it does go around. With in my case is my tia, but with my sister. Like she's always comparing, like she's always telling my sister, "Oh, porque no eres más como tu hermana?" And have this and have that. My sister, like she vents with me, but she's like, they always compare me with you, and
Yeah.
why am I not where I'm supposed? And I always like, it's hard because I am the older sister, and I'm like, yeah, like look, I always try to make her feel better because there's no need for comparison. We're two different people,
Yeah.
but they always put me in this pedestal, and then it always makes her feel bad when she's the one actually traveling to see them and hanging out
Yeah.
with them more because I have a life here.
Yeah.
But it's sad because I see that from a different perspective, and I'm actually not the one on this end for once, and it
Mm-hmm.
hurts people, because it hurts me too when they tell her those things. And I know que a veces no lo dicen por nada, pero sí lo dicen, like te dicen
No.
directas, like in a way to like hurt you, or they think it's getting you out of your comfort zone. It's not.
Yeah. I don't know why, but like in our families, I know in mine at least, everything's very direct.
Yeah.
Pero ese es problema tuyo.
Yeah.
Si no te gustó, that's your problem. But it's like you're not even realizing what you're telling me.
Yeah, y es porque son chismosos, right? Because
No,
I feel like the
girl,
family parties, it's only gather, es como una entrevista. Because
Yeah.
then I will hear them say, ¿y cómo está? Ay, ¿y cómo te va en el trabajo? And this is more like when I see my sister come over, they go, ¿y ya encontraste trabajo? Oye, el novio pa. And it's what they used to tell me, but now since I have
girl.
something established, it's her. So now I see her, and she's just like, I'm just gonna be on my phone on the corner. So if you need me, let me know. And I'm like, just, I feel so bad because
Yeah.
it's so true.
No, trust me, I feel for her, because I don't, I promise you, I have like my aunts that they're not blood related, but they raised me in like they're part of the family that we created in San Diego. But like even them, sometimes they'll be like, oh, when I was in college, oh, ¿y tu novio?
Yeah.
Girl, I'm going to school. I don't have time to be worried about a boy. Like,
Mhm.
next, can we find something else to talk about?
And like you said, if you answer back, then you're the disrespectful. Or if you tell them, like, whatever you answer back, you are now being the
Yeah.
disrespectful
And
one.
it's just
It's
it's just
crazy.
insane, because it's like I know for like our moms sometimes don't even talk to us like that. So it's like for them to cross that boundary and just think that they can say anything at any time. It's just like, okay.
No, and like you comment, Drina, about your weight, that's one of the ones that it's so like it hits home because it's never enough. And the same thing with me. I remember before it was because I was overweight. Now I'm too skinny. So estoy enferma. They're like, oye, tú estás enferma. O te
Yes.
estás tomando algo. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't, do you guys ever are happy with anything? Like,
Jeanette,
pero,
I'm the same
sí,
way.
it's
I'm the
crazy.
same way. I've always been on the curvier side, and like it's genetic at this point. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. And I told my dad one day, I'm like,
But why do they even say it, right? Like,
I know, like who cares? Yeah.
yeah, like who put this image out there that a woman has to look a specific way? Like they even laugh at Victoria's
and
Secret
I
models.
don't,
So it's
and
like,
yeah, and I
what's enough?
don't get it because a lot of us, like all of us in our majority in our families, are all curvy women. Majority of Latinas are curvy, so it's like I don't get where this idea of like you need to be this small and you need to fit into an extra small or you're too big, you're getting too much to an extra large. What does that have to do with anything, or what does that have to do with even the person that I am?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, they are insane, but they're part of our family. All we can do is love them and love them from afar sometimes.
And know that we're not alone. And that's why I love having these conversations. Porque nos acuerdan que it's part of our family and we just need to
Yeah.
embrace it, but move on and know what we're
Yes.
worth and
Yes.
realize
Yes.
that, we are not who they say we are. We have to embrace
Yeah.
that. And that's so powerful because that's been our conversation today. We took it from the tech world, which is a powerful industry that you're in, to celebrating who we are.
Yeah, I think, and that, honestly, I feel like every day should be somewhat of a celebration who you are, like in the little things that you do. Like for example, like I get to work, I immediately have to have coffee, mi café con leche, and mi cachito. Cachitos like the croissants. I'm like, those are my two favorite things. I will have that every day if needed.
Qué
So it's
rico.
like little things like that. Like you just like celebrate yourself just in little things that you do with yourself. I think that helps a lot. And it's like I said, you need to just be who you are. You should be able to be who you are wherever you're at, like in a conversation like this, like how I'm having with you guys at work, within your family, and all of that. So it's like just go with your where you're loved, basically.
That's
Yes, we
beautiful.
love that. And speak up and speak about these taboos, right? Because that's like the whole thing that Jeanette and I wanted to create this platform because as you start talking about this and the taboos, then you know you're not alone. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm not the only one that's going through this. I'm not the only one that has, that tia chismosa that always has like a comeback or something to say. So, build that village, build that community that our parents, that generation had.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think having a community and having just like I said, like a group of friends or coworkers that remind you of your family members, that's kind of a good way to go about it. I think that's just very special for you to have.
It is very. And would like Endrina to know, is there any upcoming projects, anything you want to share? We will be sharing your social medias with everyone, of course, but anything you want to share that's off topic.
No, so right now what I'm working on is bringing back my business. So I have a jewelry business and it's called Sala Glamour. I'm on Instagram. My website's kind of down right now because I'm trying to fix it back up, but that's my little project. I started that back in 2020, so when COVID hit, and it's been a roller coaster. If any of you guys have businesses, you guys know how that goes.
Yes.
But it really came because my maternal grandmother calls me Saba, and so I took the name and put it towards my store. And so she has been my image for my business. Everything is very like dainty necklaces and stuff you can wear to work and all that. So that's what I'm working on right now at work. I wish I could talk a lot about it work, but because certain things can be talked about. But work is definitely going well. I started my MBA, so I'm working towards my master right now, and hopefully I'm done with that in a year and a half. So we're doing the accelerated program.
Wow. So
Awesome. That's
powerful.
amazing. Yes.
Thank you.
Does the name mean anything?
Saba, so Saba, I don't know if you've heard, Solomon, King Solomon. So Saba was one of his wives, and his one was one that was very into him, and she rode from Yemen to him and like brought him a castle and all these things. So since I was born, my grandma gave me that name.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, so Saba's she's an African queen, yeah. So she calls me Saba. Everything is Saba, man. Saba, mi amor. Saba, mi reina.
Oh,
It's stayed, yeah.
I love the meaning to it. That
yeah.
makes everything so much more
Yeah,
powerful.
and me and my grandma are like this. That is my homegirl for sure. She's my one of my bestest friends.
Yeah, I miss mine. I know it hits different, you know?
Yeah, I just saw mine after not seeing her for 13 years. So you could imagine the
Wow.
tears and the hugs and just
I just
looking at her, and yeah, it was just the best like reuniting moment, and she hasn't seen me since I was 18. So
wow.
seeing me as a grown woman, she was just like, "Oh my God, you look just like your mom," and these all of these things, and just sitting there and talking to her, I was very grateful for that moment.
Man, that's beautiful, especially when you don't see her for so long, right? It's like we
Yeah.
take for granted moments like that because now everything is like FaceTime and text
Yeah.
messaging and
Yeah.
voice note. Like we don't pick up anymore and like really call someone and chat with them. It's the same thing in person. When we see them, it's like, wow, like it throws us back to all those memories y todo eso
Yeah.
momentos
And
que pasamos con ellos.
yeah, and so like la última vez que yo fui para Venezuela fue el 2012, and I was 18. By that time, she was taller than me. My grandma has always been, she's like 5'11". She's always been that height. And I saw her this time and I'm like, Grandma,
¿Qué
te pusiste
pasé?
más chiquita. And she's like, no, ya estoy como el tamaño tuyo. And I'm like, no, Grandma, like you're like, she's like down here, like yay high. And I'm like, I can't believe you like shrunk after being this like tall woman, and I'm like, my grandma's so tall and this, that, and the third, and now she's like yay high to me. I'm like, oh my God, this is so funny to see.
I know, isn't it crazy? That always happens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ajá. Mi mamá nació ahorita and I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, this cannot be happening. Like you used to be my height. What's going on?
Crazy, I know. Wow, that is so true. Andreina, pero gracias por estar hoy con nosotras y contar tu historia y ser la voz de inspiración.
Yes.
Dude, thank you guys so much for having me. This was amazing. And I'm so proud of you guys for putting this out, because when I'm telling you that I thought it was like, oh, Latina and everything that goes on within our family, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is where I need to be. So I'm so proud of you guys for doing this for yourselves, because this takes a lot.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Yeah, we really appreciated, when you reached out to us, it meant so much to us, these little wins that we're having and this platform that we're like creating. We keep celebrating, all these like small wins that we keep having. So we really appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining.
Of
Yes,
course,
and we would
thank you
love to
guys.
have you on our Jarrito Taboo Live. I
Yes.
don't know if you've seen
Okay.
it before, but it's like once a month we go live on Instagram and we just put random questions from our culture, right? Like where we came from,
Okay.
the things that we like, the things that we are used to, how we grew up, and then you will just answer them. So we would love to have you
Of course. Yes.
to join us on our next one. We'll send you all the details. That'd be amazing because I also feel like in the
Yes.
platform, it reminds us and it throws us back.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I would love to do that. Sounds so fun.
Yes, and if our listeners are listening and they would love to submit their questions to her, please submit. Send it through our DM, or we'll put up like a little box on Instagram so they can submit it through there too.
Oh, yes. I'm so excited.
Yay! We'll be in touch on that. And again, to everybody watching us, thank you for joining us. And please don't forget, if you haven't yet, to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on Instagram and Facebook, TikTok. Let's see. Hopefully they don't end up closing it, but we'll continue to evolve and grow to the next one. So we're not going anywhere. And again, Indrina, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, chicas. Bye.
Thank you.
Until next